Hello! Hello, you amazing human beings. My name is Maggie Kuusinan. I am a knitter and sewist coming to you from the beautifully sunny and just amazing Denver, Colorado. It's 65 degrees today in the end of February. I don't know what's happening, but I'm here for it. You can find me on Instagram as maggie.coos and on Ravelry as KuusiKnits. And this is the Knitting in the Hospital Wing podcast, a weekly, bi-weekly, monthly podcast where I come on and I talk about knitting and sometimes sewing and just my life in general so I can keep track of how I'm doing and what I'm up to. My new puppy Yampa is asleep here on the floor. He got his first bath with us today. And he is so soft, but he was so mad. I haven't seen him that sad ever, and it's funny too because he's a very fluffy puppy, and after I bathed him, when he was wet, he literally looked so small. He looked so tiny. It's so funny. I think I expect him to be kind of as big as his fur is and don't realize that his fur is really long and really fluffy. So yeah, he is asleep right now and he looks really cute. Hopefully he'll wake up by the end of this conversation so I can show him off again. Things are going really well with him. Having a puppy is hard, but it's already gotten easier. He sleeps through the night. He's pretty much, potty training takes months, and I'm sure that he will have accidents here and there, but he hasn't gone to the bathroom inside for 5 days. And he has also started sitting in front of the door and kind of whining or even barking when he has to go to the bathroom, and then you take him out and he immediately goes pee and poop. And I'm very proud of him for that. So yeah, he knows so many tricks. I can't even outline all of them, but some of my favorite ones that we're working on right now is touch. So he comes and he touches your hand. We're working on stand. We are working on high fives. That is legitimately my favorite. Hopefully I'll try to film him giving me a high five. It's so cute. Oh my God. It's so cute because he's sitting there and you hold your hand up and he just comes up and hits it. It's adorable. Kills me. So yeah, life with Yampa is great. He is just the cutest little flufferson ever. School is going really well. On February 26th, we had to submit our rank order list. So the list of residency, the list for the residency match. And so it's funny, even submitting that list, I felt a weight sort of lift off my back because it's kind of out of my hands now. So we find out on March 20th at 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time where I will be living and where I'll be going for residency. So I'm definitely anxious about it, I think particularly because there are certain places where I really would like to go. And a lot of other people, particularly in my class, also want to go there. And I think, they're all beautiful, amazing people. And hopefully they'll take us all, which they can't. I'm sure they can't. But yeah, I'm really excited to see where everyone goes. It's really fun to talk to all of my different friends and hear how they finalize their lists and hear all of the cool places that I'm going to be able to visit these amazing people. So yeah, the residency match is submitted. Now it's just time to wait. And what else have I been up to? I've been doing a lot of knitting because I've been in a lot of lectures over the last couple weeks, and I have one more week of lecture time. So have a lot of knitting to show. I'm really excited this afternoon, so actually right after I film this, I'm going to be going to the Denver Art Museum and walking around the museum and learning more about art and specifically how we can use art in medicine and how we can use art to not only better connect with our patients, but also to interpret what they're feeling and things that maybe they are not showing us. And we get to walk around for free in the Denver Art Museum and walk around with curators. So it's going to be really incredible. I'm really looking forward to that. So yeah, I love art. I think I've talked about that before. I'm kind of the ugly duckling in my family, the like black sheep who always really loved science. But obviously I have a knitting podcast and art is a huge part of my life. I really like crafting, so I really like knitting and embroidery and sewing, which I think are all forms of art. And then I also love painting, particularly watercolor painting. It's something that really relaxes me and soothes me. And like cooking. I think cooking is like totally a form of art. And so anyway, I am very artistic and my family is very artistic, and I think it's amazing to be in a school where they emphasize the importance of the arts and humanities, even when you're in a, STEM or science, technology, engineering, mathematics field. So I'm really looking forward to that. And yeah, other things, I got my hair cut. So my hair was like literally down to here. I got about 14 or 15 inches cut off. And I donated it to an organization that makes wigs for children who have medical problems that for whatever reason make them lose their hair. So anything from their getting chemotherapy treatments to have alopecia to different forms of autoimmune disorders, which alopecia is part of that, but autoimmune disorders that impact hair growth. So I feel really good about that, and not just because I got to donate it and sort of have this, I feel like it was like a literal and like proverbial weight lift, like it's also just like, ugh. And my hair, I already ate lunch today and my hair did not get into my food, which has not happened to me for like 6 months, so it needed to happen. But yeah, I really like it. I got it cut in the Highlands at this really cute little shop called The Parlor, and it was great. I went to Sarah B, who is someone who I've gotten my hair cut by before. I wanted to go to her because she is really lovely and also gives really great haircuts. And because I was doing such a big change, I wanted to go to someone who I had been to before. So yeah, anyway, enough of that. Why don't we move on to talking about some knitting, shall we? I have some knitting to talk about. I have some future sewing, but no like current sewing to talk about. That is not the craft that I spend the most amount of time doing. So, but yeah, I have lots of plans, but I've not sort of executed any of those plans. So, we're just on this adventure together. Yeah, right now I am wearing my Philosopher's Stone sweater, which is a sweater. It's the Rizzo sweater by Amy Apple. I really love it. It's this really cute and interesting construction. It's a cropped sweater. Not much more to say about it other than that I really love it and I wear it a lot. And I really want to make another one. I want to make my next one a little bit longer, so probably do a very similar amount of rib, but make it probably at least 2 inches longer. And the reason why I want to do that is so that I can wear it more at work. I thought originally that this was going to be something that I was going to be able to wear at work, but honestly, it's too short. I probably need at least another 1.5 inches. So I'm just gonna do it 2 inches longer and it'll be perfect for work. So yeah, I really love it though. It fits really well. It's something that I think is really cute wearing in a more casual setting with high-waisted pants where there's just a little bit showing when I move, and then also I think it looks really cute with like overalls and stuff like that. So I love it. It's great. But let's move on to some finished objects. I do have a couple of finished objects, believe it or not, and you can probably guess what they are. They're sort of sitting right here. This one is kind of a mostly finished object because, as you can see, it is blocked, but things are not woven in. The ends are not woven in. So this is the, sorry, I have to pull up my notes because I don't remember all of the details for all of the yarns and stuff. So this is the Best Beret by James N. Watts. I have made 2 of them this week. This is so there's sort of a normal and then a like really big one, and this is just the normal one. So I made 2 of these this week. This is a really great pattern. You start with an I-cord and then you just increase and decrease. I don't really want to say much more than that because I don't want to give too much away, but I will say the I-cord fits very snugly. He does give you different sizes, so if you have a larger head, then I would recommend doing the larger size or even like a normal size head. My head is very small, and so this one fits me quite well, but if my head were any bigger, it would not fit. So I'll just kind of show it off. I don't know if I'm like cool enough to be able to wear this. I don't know. Maybe with my new haircut I am. So yeah, I have seen like a couple different ways to wear it. I like had to research this because I was like, well, I made it and now I don't know what to do with it. So I think it's kind of cool to have it like off to the side. I feel so fashionable. But then I also like it when you have it kind of on your head and then it's just in the back. So more like this. I think this is probably how I'll wear it when I go out to the art museum today because, you know, when you're at the art museum, I feel like you have to be very chic. So yeah, I really, really love it. I guess I'll put this one on for you as well. This one is made out of Malabrigo. It is a worsted weight yarn that is a single ply, and it was really fun to work with. It's super, super soft. It blocked out well. When I blocked it, I just put a dinner plate in it. So it's about the size of a dinner plate, which is quite big. But yeah, it fits on my head really, like, surprisingly well. You can see that I don't really know what I'm doing when I have it on. Like, I don't really know how to wear it, but I'm going to figure it out because I made them and I think they're cool. So yeah, this was a Malabrigo single ply worsted weight yarn. I think it was in the yellow ochre colorway, but I'm not 100% sure. This one is in Brooklyn Tweed Shelter, which is the worsted weight, and I don't remember the color of this because I am a terrible person. But it's whatever their like gray worsted weight yarn is that has like a little bit of speckles of like brown. Really great. This is a really fun knit. I also think this is a really good knit if you have like lectures or things to sit through because it's mostly just knitting stockinette with like some increases and decreases worked in there. So yeah, Best Beret by James N. Watts. Super fun. Those are the only finished objects I have. I have been working quite a bit on all of my different sweaters, so I'm just going to kind of go through all of those. So yeah, let's start with the Redemption for Kreacher sweater. I am knitting this. This is the Rowena jumper by Fabel Knitwear, and I'm knitting this with the Fibre company Acadia, which is a rustic blend of silk, noil, baby alpaca, and merino wool. And this is the yellow birch colorway. That is a perfect color representation. It is this really beautiful chartreuse green that has little specks of silk in there, and it's a dream to work with. I love it. And I actually put a lot of work on this. So I did decide to knit it inside out. I have finished doing all of the increases along the side, and I am just about ready to separate for the sleeves, or sort of to cast off for the sleeves and then start the sleeves. But it is a really beautiful 1x1 rib. I decided to do it inside out because, as you can see, the knitting actually looks much better on my purl side. So like the V's of the knits are much more beautiful, where on the other side, for whatever reason, my purls are tighter than my knits. So on the other side, the knits just look really kind of spread out and bizarre. I think it's hard to tell, but in person it is very clear. And I have Hedwig on here delivering a little package. This is a Simply Serving project keeper, and I love it. So cute. But I have loved this. I worked on this a lot. I think last time I saw you, it was definitely before I started doing any of the increases, and the increases start all the way down here. So I knit at least, probably at least that much since I logged on, since I saw you guys last. So been doing a lot of work on this. It is a really, really great thing to knit on again during lectures because it's pretty straightforward. It's just 1 by 1 rib, so I don't have to look at it while I'm knitting. And this is in my Antler and Acorn project bag, which I got for Christmas a couple of years ago. I don't think I've showed off all of these, but I did get this a couple of weeks ago. Angry Feminist Knitters Club. Pretty much the definition of my life. I actually think that if, like, next time there's a women's march, I might knit one of these in a flesh colored for me. So similar to my flesh color, and then pink, so that there's like, so it's like a boob. Because I think that would be awesome. Have a little boob beret. And then, and I decided to call this Redemption for Kreacher because Kreacher, I think, is a very complex character who has many faults, but deserves the redemption that he got for many different reasons. I meant to say at the beginning that I am going to change up how I do the podcast a little bit. I really love thinking about Harry Potter and reading from the Harry Potter novels, but I'm not going to do that for every single episode, just because it's a lot of work to read from them and to think about what I want to say. And also because I'm reading a lot of other things too, and so I think it'd be fun to kind of talk about Harry Potter passively and describe why I decided to name particularly sweater projects. And then also when I'm finished with a sweater project, to do like a really deep dive of the importance of the name that I gave that sweater in Harry Potter, or like shawls, like any big projects that I name after Harry Potter, which I'm going to name all of them after Harry Potter. I'm going to sort of do a deep dive about those characters and what they mean and why they're important. But I'm not going to do it for every single one because I think that can get a little bit boring for my viewers and also for me. But it's still going to be a big part of it. I just, I'm not going to do it every single time. So yeah, Redemption for Kreacher. When I'm finished with that sweater, I'm going to really talk about Kreacher and what he meant and his importance and kind of go through the whole thing. So like when we first meet him, who he is, what he does, and how that impacts the other characters in the story, particularly Sirius Black and Sirius's death, and then how his character arc changes. So my Redemption for Kreacher sweater. The next sweater I have is the RAB sweater, which is Lillet by Thea Colman, sorry. And so RAB, this is a reference to Regulus Arcturus Black, who we are first passively introduced to in, well, you're probably first introduced to Regulus in the 4th book, when they sort of go to Forgrimald Place and, well, then, okay, so maybe the 5th book when they first go to Forgrimald Place and you're sort of looking at the, at the family tree within Forgrimald Place, or number 12 Grimald Place, sorry. Number 4 Privet Drive, number 12 Grimald Place, whatever. But, so you first are introduced to him there, but this comes from RAB, which is the letter that is left in one of the Horcruxes, which they later learn is from Regulus Arcturus Black. So, as you can see, I've cast off! Yay! So this is a really beautiful bow neck sweater that I did a tubular cast on. I mean, it's hard to see because it's black, but it looks so good. And then the bottom, I also decided to do one row of the lace motif and then go into the ribbing. I really love it. I'll actually throw it on for you because why not? Yes, this this is the back. So obviously I have not knit the sleeves yet, but you can kind of see unblocked how it fits. So it's going to be a slightly cropped, boxy sweater, and then I'm obviously going to put long sleeves on it. And I'm also going to repeat this lace in the sleeves before I go into the ribbing of the sleeves. So this is, I was originally going to try to finish this for Kristen's Wollensbein Yarns Practical, and I should finish it, but that is only, I think, 1.5 days until the deadline for that. So I'm definitely not going to finish it in time for that, and the reason is because a lot of other things have been more interesting to work on, but that's okay. So yeah, this is the my Regulus Arcturus Black, or RAB sweater, and it is knit in Knit Picks Swish worsted. I love it. I've shown it a couple of times, so I'm not going to give a ton of detail, but it was a really easy, straightforward sweater. I think it would be an amazing sweater, particularly if it is your first ever lace work or your first ever cabling, because it's a pretty easy and pretty straightforward cable and lace. So, yeah, and that is in a project bag that I made myself. And then my next work in progress, I know there's so many works in progress, it's like kind of crazy, is being knit in the Neighborhood Fibre Co. Studio Worsted in the Waverly colorway. This is the most amazing worsted weight yarn ever. This is like the most dense skein you've ever seen. It's like, it can move a coffee table when I hit it with this. I don't know why that was like how I decided to measure the heft of this skein, but it felt like it got the point across, and I think it did. This is 400 yards of 100% superwash merino. It is beautiful. It is perfect. Look how big it is when it's caked up. I mean, this cake, if we just change the perspective a little bit, it's bigger than my head. Bigger than my head. Okay, I mean, perspective, but it's almost as big as my head. It is humongous. And it is this beautiful purple colorway, just like the most beautiful jewel toned purple. This is actually probably like the best color representation. It's so perfect. It's one of my favorite colors. Anyway, I am with this beautiful yarn knitting what I am calling the Albus, Percival, Wulfric, Brian Dumbledore sweater. And I decided to call it that because Dumbledore is such a complex and beautiful character, and he is often described as wearing purple or periwinkle, sort of beautiful purple robes, and so in my brain he's like always wearing purple, and so I just have thought a lot about him as I've knitted this. But this is actually from Pom Pom Quarterly, the Winter 2018 edition, which is probably my favorite single knitting magazine ever. And I'm actually knitting 2 things out of this. So you can see this is the Nightingale sweater by Norah Gaughan. It is this really beautiful, heavily cabled sweater that is perfect. Like, if you ask me, it is so perfect. But I thought that I would read the description of this sweater and the shawl that I'm also knitting out of this, because they're both just really beautiful, and this one really touched home for me. So, the Nightingale is the ultimate adventure. Decorated panels with Norah's signature swooping cables pull from Louis Sullivan's architectural decorations, while gathered sleeves nod to voluminous Victorian shoulders. Knit in pieces from the bottom up and sewn with set-in sleeves and a picot neckline, Nightingale's ladylike details don't outweigh its practicality. Such silhouettes accompanied Florence Nightingale as she nursed soldiers abandoned on Crimean battlefields, reformed London's dire public hospitals, and professionalized nursing to create jobs for women. Mary C. Cole was another Crimean battlefield healer, opening an independent hospital when the government wouldn't have her. The British establishment considered Scottish-Jamaican C. Cole a quack dispensing unproven Caribbean remedies, but her skills were revered among the soldiers she healed. Here's to all the healers among us. You know, I think that Sometimes when people find out that you are a doctor or that you are about to be a doctor, that they have very intense feelings about that. And oftentimes people have had very negative experiences in the US healthcare system, which is probably because the US healthcare system is very broken in a lot of ways, but it's such a beautiful and rewarding profession to be able to be there for people when they are going through the worst moments of their lives and hold their hands and walk them through it. And then sometimes they come out the other side doing, you know, really well, and sometimes they don't. And either way, it's a really beautiful thing to be able to be there with someone through that. So anyway, this is the Nightingale sweater, or my Albus, Percival, Wulfric, Brian, Dumbledore, and I have finished the back panel. It's so pretty. I'm obsessed. So literally the only thing that I changed in this, I am doing the second size. My bust is a 36-inch bust, and I think this is supposed to be like exactly a 36-inch bust. And the only thing I did is I cropped it a little bit. So I am making it so that it is, I believe, 12 inches from the underarm to the bottom, which meant that I took off about 1.5 inches or so of this ribbing before you enter into this beautiful cable motif. But I'm just gonna get in here and show you this, because this is probably the most beautiful thing I've ever knit in my life. And I can't wait to keep working on it. I mean, what the fuck? It's so beautiful. Oh my God. What? What? I love it. Yeah, I mean, it's like literally perfect. I don't even know what to say other than like, yes. Yes. So yeah, it's hard to tell, but I can hold it up here kind of where it will be, and you'll kind of see that it won't be like too cropped. I think it will be something that will be sort of perfect for me to wear at work. I just like fucking love this thing. I could not put it down. I knit this in probably 3 or 4 days. I literally couldn't stop because it was so beautiful and so intricate and so interesting that I just loved it. I loved every part of it, and I'm really excited to knit the front panel. I think that's something that I'm going to probably cast on after I cast off a couple of other things, just because I want to have this done for next year, like so bad. It's so beautiful and it's so fun to knit. And I think the other thing that I really love about it is that it has made me realize how much better at knitting I have become over the last 1.5 years since I started knitting. A couple of reasons why. One is that Pom Pom does an amazing job of printing the errors that they have made. But it was really amazing to be able to be reading the chart and realize that like something was not correct, and to correct it without having to look it up, you know, and just sort of knowing that like if these are a reflection, then I can see what it's supposed to do and I can just do that over here, and recognizing that like little tiny errors that are just from the computer programming are wrong. And I think before I would have just been like, oh, well, I guess that this is supposed to be a knit when it should be a purl, but, you know, or I just wouldn't have even known, and I would have just been like counting along, you know. So that is so cool. The other thing that's cool about it is because I have gotten better at knitting, for instance, when I'm knitting the reverse side, I just have to sort of knit the knit and purl the purls, where before I wouldn't have been able to read my knitting well enough to be able to trust myself to do that. And so I would have had to like count the whole time. I know I would have. And so it's amazing to see how much better at knitting you get over the course of, you know, knitting for 1.5 years. So yeah, really, really fun. I love it. I literally, like, even though it is the most crazy complex sweater I've ever knit and ever seen, I would not be surprised if I knit it more than once because I love it that much. I am a little bit worried about the seaming process. However, with each new thing, I really want to learn a new skill. So like with the Lillet sweater or my RAB sweater, I decided to do a tubular cast on even though it didn't call for that because I wanted to learn how to do that. For this one, it's going to be an entirely seamed sweater, which I've never done before, and I'm really scared but excited to figure out how to do that. For my Rowena sweater, the my Redemption for Kreacher sweater, I decided to knit it inside out, even though it calls for knitting it the other way, and I think figuring out how to do that is also something that's just really amazing and empowering and something that I never thought that I was actually going to be able to do. So all of those things just make me really proud and excited that I have learned this craft that's really practical, this skill that's really useful, and that I've gotten better. It's crazy. So the last work in progress that I want to talk about is living in my Fat Squirrel Fashion Goals bag. This is my favorite bag of all time. I literally just put my favorite project in it. I just keep moving my favorite projects in and out of that. And in this, I am knitting with 2 different yarns to make the Sojourner shawl, which is this beautiful low contrast 2-tone shawl. And I will read this as well. And this is also from the same magazine. Sojourner draws on an 1880s textured silk wedding dress trimmed in lace and the late Victorian trend for monochromatic color schemes. This version creates a shifting color effects by building up the brioche body in 2 low contrast colors, but high contrast or brights would be equally covetable. The color play and vintage references continue through textured layers and welts, lace, and ribbed ruffle edge. Sojourner Truth was an African American born into slavery, right in Norah's hometown of Rifkin, New York. She escaped a particularly vile slave owner with her infant daughter, and then managed the Herculean feat of suing successfully for her son's custody. Sojourner spoke widely about her experiences to foster hope and resilience, delivering passionate talks on abolition, suffrage, and women's rights. Moreover, contemporary photographs show her wearing triangular shawls and knitting. So, I am knitting this for a friend of mine who is going through a really rough time, as we all have in our lives, and I'm really trying to do the practice of kind of a prayer shawl. Full disclosure, I am not religious in any way. I don't believe in God. I consider myself to be an atheist, but I think that there is something beautiful about the practice of a prayer shawl. So I would say for me that I am not putting prayer into the shawl, but I am putting love and compassion and empathy and warm thoughts and I know I already said this, but love, you know. I want it to be something that she can put over her shoulders and realize that she is not alone, that everyone loves her, and you know, I think just anytime you're going through something hard, which all of us have felt this way, it's a beautiful thing to get a very thoughtful representation of the fact that people care about you. So I am knitting that shawl, and this is what it looks like so far. So I just started this week. I cast it on. It was kind of funny because you cast on 1 stitch, and I don't think I'd ever done that before. I was like, what do I even do with this? And then I had to relearn how to brioche because I haven't brioche since my Excuse Me shawl. But it is so beautiful. So this is the front. It's also been really fun to work on because it's kind of this beautiful pink, light pink color. And it feels like spring is kind of in the air. So this is the front, and this is the reverse side. You can see I used very low contrast yarns, and these are the yarns together. a little tangled. So yeah, I purposely did low contrast because I really liked the low contrast that you can see in the original shawl design. So I'll just talk about these. This one is the Chameleon Yarn Company. So this is what it looks like. And this is the Oy With the Poodles colorway in her single sock. So this is a single ply sock. It's a really beautiful pale pink with yellows and speckles of blue and purple and light orange. And it's just really been a very wonderfully springy colorway. I've really, really loved this. And then this one is the Dobby and Yarn Co. Dobby in her, I believe sock colorway. So this is her 2-ply fingering weight. I love this. I was going to use this for a pair of socks, but I might have to buy another skein for myself. But I thought it looked so beautiful with that. But this is a really beautiful beige color with splotches of gray, bright yellowy green, and then speckles of blue and orange and pink. It's so pretty. So yeah, I'm knitting these together because this is called Dobby, who is one of my very favorite characters in all of Harry Potter. I decided, and because of this is sort of this beautiful light pink color, I decided to name this Dobby and Winky, the Dobby and Winky shawl. And I also think it's quite beautiful because Dobby and Winky had such a beautiful friendship, and Dobby really helps Winky through a really challenging time when she's sort of has left Body Crouch or has been forced to leave the sort of Crouch family, and she's really sad, and her sadness manifests in alcoholism. Just kind of surprising, and actually adds some comedy to Harry Potter, but is actually very depressing. Anyway, I think I just realized that the way that that is dealt with in the book is not ideal, but sometimes you do need some comedy. And I actually just saw something over in the corner that I got for Christmas from my mom, which I'm going to go grab because it's just perfect for this. Hold on. My mom got me a Dobby figurine for my stocking. So I guess technically Santa got it for me, but yeah. You can like move him. Whoa. Let's hope his arm's not bent that way. But yeah, it's pretty great. It's pretty great. Dobby, rest in peace. Anyway, so that is the end of the knitting talk. I just have one sewing project. I'm going to make another project bag. I'm going to use the rest of the waxed canvas that I used for my original project bag. And I'm going to pair it with this beautiful mustard and this for some contrast. And then I'm going to make it a drawstring one because I personally actually like drawstring bags better than zipper bags in general. Unless they are the Fashion Goals bag, because this is just the most perfect bag ever. So yeah, the only other thing that I wanted to talk about really quickly is a couple books that I just finished reading. So one of them was one that I listened to, so I'm just going to pull up my phone here. I listened to an amazing book called Normal People. And I'm just looking it up because I don't remember who the author was. But it is a really beautiful book that takes place in Ireland. And it's a very realistic love story that begins with two people when they are in high school and continues through their young adult life. And it is very real in that it is not perfect. So it's by Sally Rooney. And I'll just pull up the book. Well, it's gonna be like impossible to see because I also have like the dirtiest phone ever. But if you can see there, the title Normal People by Sally Rooney. It was great. I don't have a lot to say about it other than that it was a really great listen. So if you have Audible or another way to listen to a book, the narrator is fantastic. She is Irish herself, so she has this beautiful romantic brogue that I think just really puts you in the mood. And she does different voices for all of the different characters, but they're very believable. And yeah, it was a beautiful story, a beautifully read novel, and I really enjoyed it. So if you have any time to listen to a book, I highly recommend Normal People by Sally Rooney. And then my good friend Sophia, who I was talking about in the last episode, she got me this book, The Knitting Circle by Anne Hood, this year, I think for my birthday, and this was such a good book. It is essentially a book about a woman who loses a child. She loses her 5-year-old daughter. So if that is triggering to you, then I would not read this book, because she does talk about the grief that is associated with that, and the entire book is really about her learning how to knit as a way to manage that grief and work through what's going on in her family, in her life, after having this really, really horrible loss. And also about the tragedy in all of the other women's lives and what they experience, and how close they become. I should say actually it's one man and I think 5 other women in the knitting circle. And it goes through their stories as well, and sort of how they got into knitting and what knitting has done for them and how it has helped them, not only because of the craft itself and the act of meditation that comes with knitting, but also the community around knitting. And I've seen this community myself. When I started knitting, nobody I knew how to knit. Like, nobody. I just kind of had this beautiful sweater that my great aunt had made, and it sparked an interest, and I wanted to learn how to make it. But I have taught many people to knit over the last year, and particularly during this week of lectures, it has been so inspiring and so amazing to see all of these women with their beautiful sweaters that they've made, and to talk about it and connect about, I think it's such a beautiful way to connect to someone. So yeah, knitting brought these people together and really helped a woman heal from a really tragic, unimaginable, tragic, horrible thing. And I will say it did sort of strike a nerve at times because of the tragedy that they talk about. It is not a book for the light of heart, but it is a beautiful novel. It was pretty well written, but really for me, more than the writing was just the story. It was really beautiful, and I think if you are a knitter, you will really connect with how knitting is portrayed in this book, and how the act of knitting is therapeutic, and how knitting can help people connect. So yeah. I thought too I would just maybe look at some of the knitting circle discussion questions and see if there are any that I wanted to talk about. I actually think, so the second one is, what is it about knitting that makes the activity so therapeutic? So I think that is the one that I will discuss. I don't know what it is for everyone else, but for me, knitting really is a form of meditation. And the fact that you are doing a very repetitive, very rhythmic motion over and over again, weaving yarn, putting loops through loops to form a fabric, and then that fabric then becomes a garment or a shawl. It allows you to really focus on what is happening in your hands. It allows you to displace some of the energy that you might have that would otherwise be displaced in a not as healthy manner. And I think then at the end, you have made something beautiful, something so beautiful that strangers stop you on the street and ask you about it. That is something so amazing that we are able to do. And it definitely helps with my anxiety a lot. I think having my hands busy doing something rhythmic really does help manage my anxiety in a very real way. My parents know that my anxiety manifests itself in some, I don't want to say like, I don't want to say it's like self-mutilation, but I pick at my cuticles. And you can see how anxious I've been because my fingers just look terrible, particularly this one. So it's a testament to the fact that I really need to manage my stress. But for me, this week was very stressful in that I had to do a lot of public speaking, which is something that I do not like to do at all. I really hate it. It terrifies me. And also submitting the match was a really stressful time because it impacts your future, and we're kind of in this limbo now where we don't really know where we're going to be or what we're going to be doing, and that's scary. So my anxiety is high, but I think I'm managing it as well as I can, and knitting certainly helps with that. So yeah, it is a beautiful, beautiful craft, and I'm really thankful that I was able to learn it, and I'm really thankful that I've been able to teach it to others and sort of spread the therapeutic benefits of knitting. So anyway, I hope that everybody out there is doing well, that you're enjoying the last few days of winter and last few weeks of winter and getting ready for the tulips to start coming out of the snow and the growth and rebirth that spring brings. So bye!
Are you at your first vet visit with us? Did you get something put up your butt?
How do you feel about it?
Unperturbed? Alright.
Yampa. Time out. So cute. Yampa, what'd you think about your bath? Did you hate it? Did you hate your bath? Come on! What'd you think about your bath? You really did not like the hair drying section of the bath, did you? You look like such a rat dog. As you can see, I'm so. As you can see, he was not happy. But we did it! Yeah, but was that your first bath? Do you never want to take a bath again? Do you hate baths? What's your opinion on baths? Yep. Good boy. Good boy. Not a fan.